Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Danielle. I'm a writer, reader, student, and today we are going to be talking about the reader part. I am not the greatest Colleen Hoover fan. I don't know why I would be. After learning about some of her books, I already know that I'm not going to be a great fan of hers. I'm already not a contemporary romance fan. I'm just not. So tell me why I thought it was a good idea to pick up Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. Ooh! Before I go anywhere into this book, let me just give you a little quick warning. This review contains spoilers and also contains discussions of manipulation, trauma, and sexual assault. Viewer discretion is advised. This is going to be a spoiler-filled review because I have a lot of things to say about this lovely book. First, I feel like this needs a discussion. I know that a lot of people hate on Colleen Hoover just because I think there is some validity in understanding that we are critiquing the work, not the writer herself. And yes, you know, the work is a reflection of the writer. However, I think that there is a line that you can cross between critiquing the two. It is vague, it is blurry, but there is a line. And I am strictly hoping to stay on the side of critiquing this book only. A lot of people hate on Colleen Hoover. I think that the hate is warranted. Part of the problem comes into it once you start marketing erotica as romance. And I think this is the case with this book. It's that the publishing house has decided to market this as a contemporary romance when it should have been erotica, and that gives the readers a very different expectation going into the book. I think that once you start writing in erotica, the lines of like consent and all that stuff kind of blur, because you understand that this isn't happening in reality. This is in fantasy land, aka erotica land. In erotica land, you can do anything. You operate within the world of understanding that everything is in a fantasy. It's not what people literally want. If they do literally want it, then go ahead. But for the most part, it is just fantasy. However, this book, I think that if it operated in that rule in erotica land, the reception to this book would have been a lot better. Albeit, it wouldn't have gotten nowhere near as much attention to this book because of it, and I think that is why the publishing houses do it. I think this is more so to do with critiquing. I think we can critique the author all we want, but I think that the real blame should be on the publishing house for not properly labeling this book all for the sake of a quick buck. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I very much heartily dislike the fact that on Book Talk, this book is very much targeted towards young girls, when this should be targeted towards people age 18 and up. I don't like it. I don't like that young girls are reading this book, especially impressionable young girls. I know it's I know it's such a buzzword, but it's true. It's true that something should be said for the fact that young girls are reading this and thinking that, oh my god, Miles is my book boyfriend, when Miles treats the main character horribly. And also there's like explicit sex scenes that I don't want my child reading. Jump into it, shall we? You can tell I'm a little bit exasperated after reading this book. I'm so excited to just review this and get it over with. So let me just read off the summary I wrote. So, Miles and Tate hardly start off on the right foot. Miles comes to Tate's apartment door, drunk and sobbing over a girl named Rachel. Tate lets him crash on her brother's couch, and of course this has got to be the shittiest of first impressions. However, they learn that they are deeply attracted to one another. Eventually, they settle into a strictly casual relationship, but soon Tate wants more, but Miles is unable to give it to her. Will they be able to solve this ugly love? That's the summary of the book, and then I'm gonna go into my beat-by-beat discussion of every plot point in this book, breaking it apart, etc., etc., and then we'll talk about my final thoughts and some things that I actually did like about the book. Do I have to hold it up the whole time? I'm not gonna do that shit. So, the book starts off with Tate coming to San Francisco to live with her brother so that she can save money as she's going into nursing school. And she's talking to this man whose whole job is to press a button on the elevator door. He's like a doorman, and he's supposed to be the comedic relief. He's not. It's not funny at all. He tells like a knock-knock joke at one point. It's so bad, y'all. So his name is Cap, and he's a reoccurring character throughout the book. And he's an old man, and it's funny that he's old and has a job, because that's funny. I'm not making this shit up. This is how the book starts, okay? It's not that good. So she gets to the apartment and she discovers that there's a drunk guy passed out in front of her brother's door. And there's a whole finagle of her trying to get into the door, trying to lock the guy out, trying to get the guy in, trying to get the guy out, etc., etc. It's a whole thing. And then at one point she discovers that the guy outside is actually her brother Corbin's, one of his best friends. So she has to let him in and sleep off the hangover in his apartment. And the whole time Miles is talking on and on about how much he misses Rachel and how he's sorry for her. And who is this Rachel? Stick around, viewers. This is when we transition to the B plot, where younger Miles, teenage Miles, meets said Rachel, which, by the way, is written in verse. It's written in verse, which is so fucking stupid. Like, I get it, he's like fallen in love, and the whole point of him being written in verse is to represent like how much he's falling in love, but I think that it's stupid. And the verse isn't even that good. It was a creative choice. I don't think it's the right choice, but it was a choice that Hoover made. So Rachel is new in town. Miles has to walk her to Mr. Clayton's English classroom, and Miles falls head over heels for her. Miles thinks, quote, "You're gonna fall in love with me, Rachel," page 21. And he falls for her so badly that instead, I discreetly take a picture of her from where I'm seated. I send a picture and a message to Ian that says, "She's gonna have all my babies," page 21. And that made me want to die only a little bit. It does get worse. Then, in the B plot, we discovered that Miles and Rachel's parents are actually together. Wow, which makes this the nastiest form of forbidden love, aka this is incest. I could not believe that Hoover was pulling a Cassandra Clare. I did not know that this was going to have incest in it, y'all. I was so surprised. So anyway, in the A plot, things spice up between Tate and Miles. Corbin and his friends are in the apartment watching the game. They never clarify what the game is or what type of game they are watching, but they are watching the game. So Miles offers his place up for Tate to study because they're being too loud and rowdy. And while Miles happens to be putting away his laundry while Tate is in his apartment, Tate says the following: "Oh my word, he has the V. Those beautiful indentations that run the length of their outer abdominal muscles disappearing beneath their jeans as if indentations are pointing to a secret bullseye," page 50. Which would lead the audience to convince themselves that Tate is straight. However, in the next chapter, Tate says, "I've always been a sucker for the quiet types of guys, primarily because most guys talk too much, and it's painful having to suffer through every single thought that goes through their head," page 60. And if that doesn't sound like a good luck babe moment, I don't know what does. I might just have to convince myself to salvage this book, because I choose to believe that Hoover is actually working on a second book, and that the second book is going to follow Tate leaving this awful relationship and looking to become a lesbian. Because that is the truth. Right, Hoover? Right? I'm kidding. Hoover hates gay people. Unfortunately, we can't have nice things. So Miles joins Tate and Corbin on their family on Thanksgiving, which, like, why did he join them in the first place? They don't describe it anyway. I get it that Miles didn't have a family to go back home to, but, like, why is he just invited to their family Thanksgiving, especially when Tate goes out of her way to specify that Tate and Corbin's mom prefers it to only be immediate family at the Thanksgiving dinner. So during this little vacation, Tate realizes that Miles is attracted to her. There's a really super duper funny scene that made me laugh and giggle and pee my pants. Pretty much, they're talking about Miles' love life, or lack thereof. And the mom assumes that Miles is gay because he hasn't been with a woman for like 6 years, and he is not. And it's funny. I'm not joking. That's how it's written. Like, "He's gay, honey," she says. "Is not," my dad says, firmly, laughing at her assumption. I'm shaking my head at her. "Don't shake your head, Tate. Miles isn't gay," I say defensively, looking at my mother. Why did I say that out loud? Now Corbin looks confused. There's another little ellipses there. "Corbin, I'm not gay. Never have been. Pretty sure I never will." What the hell, man? And that's funny, because they thought he was gay. I would throw this book, but I don't want to lose my place in it. Everyone in this room is cracking up at the possibility of Miles being gay, and I don't get it. Like, you can call me a snowflake all you want, but if we just reverse the roles a bit and assume that someone was straight and laughs at the absurdity, it's not funny. The setup is that they think he's gay, and the punchline is that he's not. It's so funny. Why aren't you laughing? Anyway, Hoover is great at writing humor. I don't get it. Like, am I stupid? Did anyone else laugh at this? This isn't my sense of humor at all, but apparently I'm not the only one that didn't laugh at it after reading the reviews, because a lot of the reviews were like, this is stupid as hell. Most of the reviews are straight allies pointing out the absurdity of it all, and I commend them for it. However, I'm allowed to look at it from a comedic point of view, and I can say it does not fit either way. I just don't have the sense of humor, apparently. Another point is that Hoover completely dismisses the idea of asexual people to exist. She says, "Everyone wants love," I say, or at least sex. It's human nature. Page 81. So as an asexual lesbian, I am dehumanized as a joke and also denied my own existence, which quite frankly I find impressive that Hoover managed to do so in the span of 3 pages. Some people say that this line is dismissive and acephobic. I bring up the compelling hypothesis that this is actually Hoover's way of implying that there's an interconnected Hooververse that is connected between all of her books, where asexuality does not exist, abuse is cute, and you can start a floral shop without a SWOT analysis. So Miles and Tate have this really steamy moment where he says, "I'm attracted to you, Tate." he says, his voice low. I want you, but I want you without any of that other stuff. Page 83. Woo! Hoover sure knows how to make a girl swoon. Pretty was saying he wants a strictly casual relationship, and Tate is like, but I want more than that. Tate in the back of her head is like, I can fix him. I'm not gonna shit on casual relationships, because as long as everyone is on the same page, it should be fine, right? But everyone is not on the same page, because Tate doesn't know how to communicate her feelings, and it fucking sucks. And the consent feels tenuous at the best of times. Oh dear, what could go wrong? A lot of stuff goes wrong. Then, on page 83, there's a really fucking stupid line where Tate says, say the word ox. His eyebrows raised, like he's wondering if he heard me right. He thinks I'm weird. I don't care. Just say it, I tell him. Ox, he says with a slight hesitation. I smile. I love the word ox. It's my new favorite word. You're so weird, he says, amused. Is that fucking humor, or am I stupid? The real fucking humor is that Hoover thought that was a good idea. And that made it past the editor. They make out, and Hoover describes it descriptively. I'll give Hoover that. As an asexual lesbian, that scene made me want to stab my own eyes out with some scissors. Anyway, they're interrupted by Tate's dad, which gives me the nastiest fucking ick imaginable. But they settle into this sort of secretive, casual relationship that they resolve to hide from Corbin because Corbin is a super overprotective big brother. But not before Miles gives her 2 rules and for this casual relationship. Don't ask him about his past and don't expect the future. Page 88. Fair enough! Weird fucking rule, but go off, King. In a B plot, the step-siblings are making out, and it's only slightly horrifying. I feel like Hoover has somehow desensitized me to the absolute nonsense that's happening on the pages. There is this line where Rachel is kind of insecure about herself, and Miles reassures her, and Rachel goes like, is this fine? She asks timidly. I say it is, but I wish she were more confident. I need to make her more confident. Page 103, which was really fucking sexy. Back to the A plot, aka current time. Tate and Miles are having sex. Unsurprising there. And there's a scene where Miles gives a homeless man a blanket, and that makes Tate like so fucking wet for Miles. Tate's like, oh my god, he cares about homeless people, oh my god. But this, mind you, this is right after like a long tangent of Tate being like, I wish that we could help all homeless people. I think that money is the root of all evil. And I'm like, yes, queen. But Tate ends it off with like, I wish I had change. If I did, I would give it to the homeless man. I'm like, if you had change, go get change, you fucking idiot. This book is really fucking stupid. Back to the B plot, we discovered that Miles and Rachel got pregnant. Is it too much to ask Hoover to not have a pregnancy trope? Or does she have to push her breeding kink onto all of us without our consent? Because I don't understand why this is a thing. It's the nastiest thing ever. I do not have a breeding kink. I do not want to read about breeding kinks. It's just... And breeding kinks between siblings, oh my god, ow, my eyes, my head. But knowing Hoover and all she cares about consent, it probably doesn't matter. Like the Dewey's consent that happens in the A plot when Miles and Tate are having sex, and Miles, he slams into me so unexpectedly I scream. One of his hands leaves mine and he brings it to my mouth and covers it. Shh, he warns. He holds still, giving me a moment to adjust to him inside. He pulls out with a moan and slams into me again, causing me to yell out once more. His hand muffles my noise this time. And this scene isn't even the fucking worst! I cannot reiterate how much I get it. It's a CNC kink. I get it. I understand. But make that obvious. Shelve this with the book where you have to get an ID to buy it, and don't give it to fucking 14-year-old girls. Call it a day. I hate that this is being targeted toward. I hate that the target audience for this book has become 14-year-old girls, and I think it is a shame. I think it is stinky behavior, and I do not like this book. Anyway, they're having sex in the car. Miles admits that he wants more from a relationship, but he's unable to give it to her because something from Miles' past, which will most likely be revealed in the B plot where Miles and Rachel are now pregnant. Tate is frustrated that Miles isn't communicating, which honestly fair, and Tate says, I push his hand away. Don't, I say. Either admit you want me for more than just sex or take me home. He's quiet. Maybe he's contemplating my ultimatum. Admit it, Miles. Admit it, please. The car begins moving again. Page 196. So this obviously makes me understand why Miles is everyone's book boyfriend and why everyone loves him. If I met Miles, he would turn me straight too. Eventually, Tate does stand up for herself. Kind of. Eventually. It's the best we're gonna get at this point. She finally has her own rule for this casual relationship that they got going on. She says, don't give me false hope for a future. Page 215. If you're wondering why I keep going back and forth between the A plot and the B plot, this is how it's written. It's so jarring between the two. In the B plot, Miles and Rachel's parents marry, which means that they are officially step-siblings. Ew. Miles and Rachel, they tell the parents about everything going on between them, and they give birth to a healthy little baby boy that they named Clayton, which they named after their high school English teacher, which the high school English teacher probably has nothing to do with their life. But you know what? That's so cute and wonderful. Don't think too hard about the fact that they're siblings now. Don't think about it. I can see it in your eyes. Stop thinking about it. Just forget about it. Think about it for a moment that there's a cute baby. In the A plot, Corbin finds out about Miles and Tate and is understandably furious because you're fucking your friend's sister. Fucking duh. Miles responds accordingly by apologizing, maybe ending things off. Wait. He doesn't. He does not do that at all. Instead, he says, "Fuck it," he says, gliding across the kitchen towards me. He takes my face in his hands and kisses me hard in front of Corbin. He's kissing me in front of Corbin, which is not the right response. Far from it, and I am over here clutching my pearls at the very scene. Don't worry though. It gets worse. We cut back to the B plot very quickly after that horrifying scene. I'm gonna continue clutching my pearls because in the B plot they describe the baby's genitals, and I'm not even joking. I was flabbergasted when they wrote, "We both laugh at our son's big balls," to page 268. The context doesn't help. It comes out fucking swinging at you. It fucking uppercuts you. Almost as much as a sucker punch to discover that the family gets in a car crash and they go over a bridge. So Miles saves Rachel, and then he tries to save Clayton, but he can't get Clayton out in time, so he's only able to get Rachel. So we discover why Miles is so traumatized is because his child died in the car accident, just like a day or two after they leave the hospital, which I'm not trying to knock. It genuinely is horrifying. It seems that Miles has some sort of PTSD, or definitely at least some sort of trauma that is long-lasting and is clearly affecting his interpersonal relationships. It's affecting his communication and in relationships, but if that's the case, Miles should know better than to throw himself into a casual relationship that he's not ready for. And I get it, people aren't perfect. I'm not expecting Miles to be perfect, but there are some things that I like my men already having known, and self-respect for themselves and others and their partners should be a given. In the A plot, Tate confronts him on why Miles is being a piece of shit and refuses to communicate, and Miles gets intimate with her because that seems like the perfect response to it. And it tries to come off as consensual. Meanwhile, Tate is thinking, "I'll do whatever he wants to do to me as long as he stops hurting like he's hurting." Page 275. Which, like, oh my god, do not think that. Do not make your 14-year-old audience think that that is okay to think. Then they're intimate with one another, and while he is inside of her, Miles moans Rachel's name instead of Tate. Which, oh my god, no. What's worse, it gets worse, is that Tate says, "Just finish, Miles." I say to him through my tears, "Just finish." Page 277. Then Miles tops it off with, "He thrust against me, hard this time. So hard I scoot away from him, so he wraps his arms under my shoulders and cups his hands forward, holding me in place against him as he repeatedly pushes into me." Page 277. Oh my god, if it's that painful, just fucking stop. You can withdraw consent at any time. That is a thing that you can do. Oh my goodness. I don't have to say the whole time that she's like moaning and shit, but it doesn't feel any less icky. It has this ugly implication that once you start a sexual act, that you can't back out of it at any time. And it's so, god, this book makes me want to die. Which thankfully, that's what happens to Miles and Rachel's relationship. It dies, their dead child tears the two apart, and they break up. Is that insensitive? Fuck it, they're not real anyway. So we're nearing the end of this book, and Miles has made very little character development up until this point, and everyone is telling Miles to get over his trauma and get Tate back. And my first response is no, they shouldn't be in a relationship with one another in the first place. He has to fix himself, and getting into a relationship when he already needs work, that seems like a recipe for disaster. I believe that he should be working on himself first, but no, this is a contemporary romance, and he's obviously hung up over this like traumatic past, and everyone is just like, get over it, lol. Even Cap, the old man doorman, he says, "You're one of the ones that's just been going older, because you are as stupid as the day you were born." Cap tells him that, and I was like horrified. Don't get me wrong, Miles is a bad person, but he's been through a lot, and the fact that everyone is just like, get over it, lol. Like, his kid died. Like, give him a break. He's not stupid, he's traumatized. Like, get a grip. And I'm no man, but this feels very like stop having feelings type of thing to a man, and it's gross. I'll say it. I'll defend Miles Archer. He doesn't need a relationship to fix him. He needs to fix himself. And to go Darcy mode on him. The rules were reversed and a girl was getting into a relationship to fix herself, we call it problematic, but the fact that a man is doing it, everyone is just okay with it. So Miles meets up with Rachel in the present time and they have a close heart-to-heart about the grief that they both experience and letting it go. Then Miles just magically is over his trauma in record time, just like that. It's fucking bizarre. I can't believe that character development can happen just like that overnight. I'm quite impressed, really. I suppose he goes back to Tate, begs her to take him back, explains everything about his past and that he's ready for a future. So in the last chapter he proposes and Tate accepts the proposal from the man that manipulated, lied, and deceived her for months and used her for sex, but I guess it was romantic and kind of sexy. Then in the epilogue they have yet another baby and Miles finds the peace and happiness he had with his first son and finds it in his new daughter. Look, I tried to give this book a fair chance. I really did. I did not. The first Colleen Hoover book I ever read was It Ends With Us, and I read it before this book, and I didn't viscerally hate it like I expected. So I expected something similar going into this book. I really did. I went into this book knowing nothing about it except that I knew that they talked about a baby's genitals, but I kept telling myself it was out of context. It was out of context. It was out of context. The context did not help, by the way, but nonetheless, I thought Ugly Love might be better than It Ends With Us because I didn't like It Ends With Us, and then everyone was like, "You have to read Ugly Love. It's better than It Ends With Us." And I'm like, okay. Fine. If it is better than It Ends With Us, then I'll read it. Oh my god. It's horrible. And people were like, read one of her actual romance ones. You'll love it. You'll enjoy it. So I did. And you know what? I finally understand why people say that Hoover's books are problematic. Because yeah, I get it now. People are reading these books and going, oh my god, Miles is so romantic. He's like everyone's book boyfriend. Oh my god, he's so sexy. It's obvious she's using her for sex when she wants a relationship. And he still fucks her. If this were a mutually beneficial casual relationship, Miles would validate her feelings but politely refuse and try to slowly but surely end things between them since things got too real too quick, but not continue to string her along. But that's what he does. I cannot reiterate how tiring of a phrase it is to repeat, but I do not like that young impressionable girls are reading this book and romanticizing Miles. But it's true. Young girls are reading this book, whether we like it or not, and the thought that one of these young girls could be treated like this by her own boyfriend and believe that it's normal or even romantic makes me sick. Makes me sick! It'd be one thing if this book was solely marketed towards adult women, but the fact that it has become marketed towards young teenage girls makes me icky. Makes me feel icky. But this is a recurring issue where books like these are put in the YA romance section rather than in the adult romance section where they belong. And I'm not saying that sex and bad things can't be in YA books, because it's not. I mean, The Poppy War is considered young adult, and I believe that that rating is good. But they recognize that the bad things are bad. Here, the bad things are labeled as good, and that is a problem. Some pros. Look, as much as I shit on Colleen Hoover, I gotta admit, pacing goes hard. The pacing does go hard indeed, but it flows and it's easy to read, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think that simple prose is bad. It's if you're reading her books, you're not looking for like purple prose or literary fiction. You're looking to read reality TV trash, and here it is. Enjoy it. Here you go. I did not like this book. I would not recommend this book. If you want to read a contemporary YA romance, there are so many other contemporary YA romances out there. Additionally, if you want to read an adult contemporary romance, there are so many adult contemporary romances out there that are way better than Ugly Love. The writing is quick and easy to read. No wonder it popped off of Book Talk, because especially in conveying to non-readers that you can get back into reading, this book is really good and it's a really approachable way to get back into reading. And I will commend Colleen Hoover for that. You got me there. And I will always say this, but in defense of Colleen Hoover and the romance genre in general, the romance genre gets shit on astronomically in comparison to other genres, simply because it is targeted towards women, which I don't understand, because if you're a straight guy and you want to know what straight women like, just read a rom-com book. They tell you how to act. That's the hill I would die on, but not Colleen Hoover though. Try Sally Thorne instead. I've heard Emily Henry is pretty good. That's a little better. But anyway, people shit on romance just because of the target demographic, and it's just sexism. So while the book isn't great, I think that this book deserves partially the amount of hate that it gets, but I also think that a big part of it, why people hate this book, is because it's romance and that it's targeted towards women, especially young girls, and people like to shit on whatever young girls like. But you know what? Stupid as hell. So while this book is massively hated on, I think that a lot of it is because it is in a romance genre, and the romance genre is primarily targeted towards women, and I think that that deserves some sort of discussion. I don't want to read another Colleen Hoover book. I might if you guys really love this video, but I'll be hell pressed. I won't be happy about it. You'll be surprised to discover that this is actually my second Colleen Hoover book. I actually first read It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover a year ago, and I ended up rereading it for a podcast. Yep, I have a podcast that I started with Evan L. Rodriguez, and we discussed It Ends With Us in episode 2, and that episode 2 should be out